Here is the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, episode number 51. This podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Turrbal people. I acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. They were the first music makers on this land. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Crescendo Music Education Podcast. Today, I'd like to just give you 5 quick tips to help you be present for your students. Now, I say this with much love and much understanding because this is something that I have struggled with. I really do struggle to be present and give myself to my students every lesson. So I thought, let's get some of these ideas down, things that have helped me recently, because I think I'm a lot better at doing this now than I was. So maybe you could benefit from a little bit of my experience. And I'm just going to share 5 quick tips. All right. So first, why would I bother at all? I think it's because our work and our lives are so busy. It's very much an overused word, isn't it? Busy. And I try very hard to not answer when people say, how are you? I try to not say, oh, busy. I'm developing a bit of a hatred of that word. But anyway, that's an aside. The fact is that we do have a lot to do all the time. We teach hundreds of students. I know in the case of the system I work in, 25 to 30 students at a time, depending on age. We have to cover all of the concepts within our curriculum. We have to teach repertoire. We have to manage their behaviour. We have to assess. We have to report. We have to engage the children. We have to differentiate for all of those said hundreds of children. We have to inspire them, motivate them. I just think teaching, like, you just have to be superhuman to do all of those things. And that's just our work life. I'm not even going to go into personal life and balancing how you have a family or friends or a home or a social life or any of those things while you teach. I'm just in this episode going to talk about work and about being present at your work with your children. So with all of that background in mind, here is the first little tip. By the way, they may be little tips, but they're all easier said than done. So first one, forget the to-do list. Now, my to-do list is massive. My to-do list is also in many different places. I have one in my computer as an Excel doc. I have a notebook. Actually, that's not true. I have a couple of notebooks. I am trying to amalgamate so that it makes some sort of sense. I have a diary. I have been a user of the Full Focus Planner from Michael Hyatt. Fabulous. I'm giving that a little break as I'm just trying to refine my systems. I have sticky notes. I have them around the place. I have a whiteboard here in front of me with stuff written on it. I have things everywhere. When I'm working at school, I will write things on the whiteboard so that I don't forget them. My to-do list is not organized and massive. All right. So forget it. When you're teaching, forget that to-do list. You just have to. It's hard. Silence your inner dialogue, all of those things that you're telling yourself that you have to do or should do. Silence it. Remind yourself that it's actually not about you. It's actually about the students in front of you. It's not about you. So that's little tip 1. Forget the to-do list. Tip number 2, remind yourself that what you're doing right there in the moment with those students, that time with them is irreplaceable. You will never have that time again. Remind yourself of that. You know, when you make eye contact with the children, with particular children, and you get that exchange, they feel they've been seen. And you try to do that several times in a lesson. You can't do that if you're worried about all of the other things you've got to do. You have got to focus on them. That little smile that you give them, it's special. They think that's just for them. And it is. You are present for them. You are telling them you have seen them, you've heard them, you recognize them. That joy, that interpersonal human contact with individuals, it cannot be replaced. If you don't use that time for those things, if you are preoccupied with all of the other things you have to do, then you've lost that time with that child, that group of children. You will never have it again. So remind yourself that that time with these children is irreplaceable. If I don't give them my best for their half hour of instruction, 25 minutes, whatever you've got them for, then that's the time you get them for that week. You might not have them next week. It might be a holiday. Certain children might be away. It's a sports day next week. It could be weeks before you see them again. So this time is valuable and irreplaceable. So remind yourself of that. Third little tip is, again, it's a reminder. Most of these are reminders. It's really about mindset, isn't it? Each child deserves your full attention. Every one of those children. Some need your attention more than others. Some will grow and benefit from your attention more than others, but each child needs and deserves your attention. So remind yourself of that each child deserves your attention. Fourth tip is to just remind yourself that you will gain a kind of freedom when you live in that moment with your students. There is a freedom and a magic that happens in that time. It's almost in the nature of music itself, that making of music together in that time, in that space, is just for that time and special for that time and makes impact in the future, certainly. But it's this certain magic about that time. So the freedom in that time, don't waste that. Grab that freedom of working with those children. And I guess the fifth tip is just to remind yourself to be grounded in the now, not in the past, not in the future. Be grounded in the now. This time you have with these children, that's what you've got. It's where you are right now. Enjoy it. Make the most of it. Be grounded. So they're my 5 quick tips. To go over them again, forget the to-do list. Remind yourself that time with your children is irreplaceable. Remind yourself that every child deserves and needs your full attention. Revel in that sort of freedom that you get when you live in the moment with your students. And 5, stay grounded in the now, not live in the past or worry about the future. Be grounded in the now. We have so much stress in our lives. Working in a school it's just let's just say a big juggle of all sorts of things, personalities and systems and issues. There's a lot going on. So why not relax and pay attention to the kids in front of you at that time? I hope you found those little tips useful, at least useful reminders. Enjoy your time with the kids. As we know, laughter relieves stress. Don't lose sight of the funny side of life. I was going to make myself a belt out of watches, but then I realised it would just be a waste of time. Thank you so much for watching our Crescendo Music Education podcast. For more information about all things crescendo, including membership and music education resources, visit us at crescendo.com.au. Don't forget to like and subscribe